is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. I haven't done one in a while. I'm so sorry, but I have been moving. So I moved. I'm in a completely different place, and the background might alter slightly because of the move. So yeah, but right now it's just a blank white wall. So I don't think we're really seeing too much change here. Other than the lack of my decorations. But anyway, I'm doing another catfish video today, and I'm doing season 7, episode 19, Mike and Joey. So we start off with an introduction of Jim Carrey's daughter, Jane, and she's gonna be the co-host for this episode because this was when they were like trying to replace Max, basically like pre-Cammy era. So the email comes from Mike. He's 19 and he thinks he's met the love of his life. He's originally from Hartford, Connecticut, but has recently moved to San Diego, California, but he met Joey on Grindr while he was still in Connecticut. He kind of gives, the little briefing in the email that they have tried to video chat, but it was completely dark in the room when they tried. Mike does acknowledge that this is a red flag, and he's honestly doing better than a lot of people on this show because so many people just ignore blatant red flags, and I don't really see how. Apparently at one point Joey said that he was gonna fly from Connecticut to California to come and visit Mike, but that never happened. He ended up backing out. And Mike also says that he has big plans for himself, and he basically doesn't have time to fuck around. That's not his exact words, but that's basically what he means. So they go ahead and hop on a Skype call with Mike, and he greets them with an open shirt.
The open shirt!
I mean, I don't like wearing shirts in general, but I figured for an occasion.
He says he doesn't want to work, and he thinks that he should be a trophy husband. Don't let your dreams be dreams, and all of that stuff, I guess. So Neve is like, so you moved to San Diego to find a successful, handsome man to take care of you. And he says they don't have to be handsome. Just successful. Okay. I respect it, I guess. He actually lives rent-free in San Diego, and I'm like, okay, well, you're already on your way to being a trophy husband, I suppose. But Neve is like, so you've already found a guy to take care of you. And he's like, no. So basically his roommate is letting him stay for free, and Neve is like, does your roommate like you, like have romantic interest in you? And then Mike is like,
I like to say who isn't into me, but
okay. We're clearly seeing a pattern here. Like, this guy is obviously very sassy, very funny, like, but as it progresses through the episode, it does get a little more, it just feels a little out of touch at some points. I'll just say that. Anyway, Neve's asking about if his parents know about everything, and his parents don't know anything about, like, his situation, and they think he works at Starbucks. So they talk a little bit about Joey, and he's apparently a mechanic, and Neve points out that Joey might not be in a position to take care of Mike. Mike is like, yeah, he wants to be taken care of, but love is about making compromises, and honestly, totally agree. And honestly, that's so cute, but let's make sure he's not catfishing you first. So anyway, they go ahead and pick Joey up from somewhere. I don't really think they actually said where they were getting Joey from, but you can see like parking meters in the background, so maybe it's like a train station or a bus. Like, I don't really know what it is. But they picked Joey up, and he's talking about how he used to laugh at people on Catfish that were getting catfished, and now here he is. Anyway, so they talk on the couch a little bit more, and he mentions about how, his roommate gave him a place to stay for free and told him to just look hot. I have a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to. So Jane is like, clearly the roommate is kind of into you and maybe wanted more. And he said there's a difference between being hot and being in heat. Okay?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between looking hot and being in heat.
He does make a lot of jokes, like I said, he's a very silly, funny guy. Anyway, so they're kind of still talking about Joey, and he's like, yeah, he's closer to Joey than any of his other friends, and he feels like he can be a lot more vulnerable with Joey than his other friends. and that they've talked on the phone for hours, so he knows that it's not really, like, he doesn't think it's a possibility that it could have been anybody that he knows. But like he mentioned in the email, they tried to video chat, and a lot of times before there were technical issues and he couldn't like turn the camera on. But then the last time they tried to video chat, it was just in a pitch black room, so he couldn't see anything. And the reason that he couldn't meet up in person is because of his finances or work, and he just kind of throws the man under the bus, I feel like. And he's like, I know Joey's not the richest. And I just feel like that's a little, I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit rude, just a bit. Like, it's just rude in the sense that you could have worded it better. It's not rude if it's the truth, I guess, but it's just rude how it was worded. Neve then mentions that his two desires for, you know, to compromise for love and to basically be a sugar baby, they just don't really mesh well. Yeah, and Mike says he can go either way, which I think that's a good thing. Keeping an open mind and being real is a very good thing in this scenario, because, you know, you don't want to throw your whole life away for a catfish, but at the same time, being a sugar baby isn't always the best idea. But if you want to do it, I mean, who am I to stop you? So Mike starts showing him pictures of Joey, and Neve says that he looks emo, which I disagree. But Mike's reaction is like, you don't say that, I don't like emo people. And like, genuinely, why not? Why not? Why not? Like, I like emo people, probably because I'm a former emo, kind of still emo, but why don't you like them? I think they look pretty cool, honestly. But then he says he's just alt, and that even that's a little iffy for him. Like, please. It's not that bad. It's not bad to be alternative. It's not bad if you're emo or alternative. Please, I stand with you. Neve is like, do you just want to find out who this is so you can just move on if it's not who he says he is? And Mike says that he does want to believe him, but Neve is like, if it is him, then that's a bigger issue for you, really, like, because of the lifestyle that you desire, basically. And in response, Mike says,
I mean, I'm only gonna be hot till like I'm like 29 or something like that. And that's like when it all goes downhill from there, right? I know that this isn't going to last forever. It's scary.
well, I guess I only have a few years left. I didn't think that I looked hot in the first place, but if I do, I only have a few years left, apparently, guys. I'm so sorry. All of you guys under the age of 29, you only have a few years left. I'm sorry, but you're not going to be hot forever, according to him. I just think it's so funny that he thinks that age is what determines your attractiveness. Like, okay, I guess. But have you seen? Okay. But anyway, he just acknowledges that he won't look this way forever and that he just wants to give Joey a shot. So they leave the house so that they can start to do research and everything, and Neve mentions that he feels like he has a version of himself that he presents as like the more fun side. And honestly, I agree, like you can totally see right through it. If you watch the episode fully, you can totally see he's putting on a front. So they get into the investigation process, and Mike sends them his phone number and then his Facebook page. And I also saw like on the email that he had sent, like had mentioned an Instagram, but it had been deactivated. So, I mean, I don't know if that's suspicious or not. They didn't mention it in the episode, but I just noticed it when I was watching. Anyway, he also sent them a more intimate picture, which is just a bulge in pants pic. So they start the reverse image searching, and the two face pictures don't come back with anything, but the bulge picture does. And I don't know if it's because I watched this episode originally so long ago. Like, I've watched this episode like 4 different times, I think. I don't know, but this picture looks so strangely familiar, like it could have been on like, I don't know, a Wattpad fanfic or like on Tumblr, or maybe something like people used to post on Twitter, maybe they still do, I don't know, I don't use Twitter anymore. Or like, I don't really know where I've seen this picture or if I'm just misremembering and it's only that I've seen it in Catfish, but it does look strangely familiar. Anyway, so it ends up linking back to Pinterest. Okay. I didn't know that kind of stuff was on Pinterest, to be really honest with you. But anyway, they use this to figure out if this means that it could still be him and he'd just be on the smaller side of the, just the smaller side. Or if it could be a girl that's pretending to be Joey. Neve tries to rule that out though by saying that they talk on the phone all the time, and like Jane jokingly like tries to make a manly voice and kind of fails.
I mean, I can, be really deep in my voice. Are you driving it? Because that could be the issue.
Like, but Jane also is like, as if that's the first time that's happened, like, yeah. But anyway, they end up looking up the number, and it is, unsurprisingly, a text app number. Then they check his Facebook, and for some reason, there is a post that he's, there's a post on his page that someone has, I guess, tagged him in. I don't know. I don't really know how Facebook works. Like, I have a Facebook account, but I don't really understand it, to be honest. But anyway, they have the Facebook post, and this girl named Desiree says, "You were right all along. My battery totally needed to be replaced." And the reason that I do find this strange is because even though I barely know how Facebook works, I do know this much. I know for a fact that you can talk on Facebook Messenger or just private message in general, because I know Facebook even before had a private messaging system that wasn't Messenger. I'm confused as to why you made a post onto this man's actual page and you're talking about your battery. When you actually hear the story as to how they met and everything, you're gonna be a little more suspicious too, probably. But I just feel like that's weird. Even if you are a mechanic, I just feel like that's a very strange thing to have on your Facebook page. I know people like to be super personal on Facebook, but that just seems really random and out of place. And it seems too crafted to create this narrative that this person is actually a mechanic, and it kind of fails at doing that. In my opinion. Anyway, they reach out to Desiree from this post and they ask to call her and everything. So they keep checking out his friends list, and they see that everybody in his friends list is from somewhere different, like different cities, different states, even a different country. Like someone was from Thailand. And unless this guy is an avid traveler, which I highly doubt because of the way that Mike talks about him, I don't really see how this guy has that many friends. Unless he plays like online games, then it's more likely. But other than that, I don't really see that being likely. Clearly this person was just bulking up their Facebook page full of friends just so it seems more legitimate, I guess. But if you're even paying an inkling of attention, it's very obvious this is probably not a real person's Facebook page. As they are looking through the friends list, they get the call from Desiree, and they ask if they can FaceTime her just to make sure that she's the person that they are supposed to be talking to. So they ask her about the whole battery thing, and she says, yeah, her car died at a Starbucks, and he jumped her off. And she said that she ended up buying him a coffee after for his help, but then, after that, he didn't give her his number, but he gave her his Facebook instead.
Huh?
I mean, I figure that if you're a mechanic, you would usually give out your number anyway, because that's how you get into contact with the people whose cars that you're working on, like your customers. That's how you would interact with your customers. Obviously in this case this isn't a customer, but even still, you could easily give your number out as a mechanic. I don't know, but I don't know, maybe some people are just more private, or maybe he doesn't have a work phone number that he felt like she should contact him on or something. I really don't know. I'm still confused about why you wouldn't just private message him instead of posting it on his Facebook page. Anyway, they're like, so can you confirm that he's the guy in the pictures? And she says, yeah, he has gauges and a septum like me. They ask if she has had more contact with him outside of that whole situation, with the Facebook post. And she says, yeah, they've gone out for coffee a couple of times. and that they've just chatted, and like if you guys are hanging out like that, why wouldn't he just give you his number at some point? Unless he did after this Facebook post. I don't know. I don't know when this episode was actually filmed, but I don't know. That just seems a bit weird. So then Neve is like, so what do you guys talk about when you go out for coffee? And without missing a beat, unless they cut something out, she talks about how Joey has been talking about this guy, Mike, that he's been talking to. Now, to be fair, this could totally just be the way they edited this, and maybe they cut out everything else that she said first. But to me, why would that be the most prominent thing in your mind that he's talked about? And also, why would that be the primary thing you guys are talking about if the whole reason that you guys met was because of a car issue, and also he's a mechanic, and also you guys don't know each other that well? Like, that's not to say that you can't talk about specific topics with people that you don't know very well, but I just think it's slightly unlikely, personally. I just think it's really baffling to expect us to believe that he just opened up to you, a random person that he might not know that well, like about his entire relationship with this guy that lives in California. How would that even come up? Like, I genuinely want to know. Obviously, like I said, conversations flow. I don't know. It just seems a little weird. My only other thought is that maybe the actual like catfish team gave her coaching to say that, but I don't know, it's just strange. So they ask what he says about Mike to her, and she says that he really likes him, and then they end the call. Neve says that the call was suspiciously helpful, and I totally agree because of what I mentioned just a few minutes ago, and they think that Desiree could basically be covering for Joey. So they go back and meet up with Mike to give him the whole rundown of everything that they found, and before they start, they basically are just asking him how he feels and everything, and he's like he hopes that it's going positive, that if not, he's ready to be a trophy husband, and that his textbook of choice has been the Real Housewives series. Okay. Jane then kind of gives a little insight into the real world, and she's like, you know, even her parents have problems, and, you know, being on TV and stuff and acting like you're on TV won't necessarily make you happy, but that giving Joey a chance shows that clearly he wants to be happy. And honestly, it's giving a little bit of a mom moment, but in a good way, not in a bad way, in a very good way. And Mike says he doesn't know why he feels attracted to Joey, but he does, and something just draws him to Joey. Anyway, they actually get into telling him everything that they found, and they tell him about the bulge pic being on Pinterest, and he basically says that's not fair because he sent him actual, like, nude pictures. Well, I agree. He said it wasn't frontal pictures, it was behind, so maybe that's a little better. I'm not really sure. Anyway, they tell him about how they FaceTimed the girl Desiree from the Facebook post, and Neve is telling him basically that the call with her was just all too perfect, and yeah, I'm glad we are on the same page with that because it's so blatantly obvious that it was like rehearsed, I guess. So they're like, you know, he could be fake or he could just be kind of private. And Neve suggests trying to get him to meet up, and then they try to call Joey and he doesn't answer. Also, I just want to point out this is clearly a text app voicemail sound.
Hi, please leave your message after the tone.
So they decide to just go to Connecticut to see if they can get him to meet, and I think that's a little gung-ho. We're just kind of assuming this man will meet up with us, but okay. So Neve tries calling Desiree and she doesn't answer, but she does end up texting him, and she confirms that he is in Connecticut, but she doesn't know why he didn't answer, and that she'll see what she can do. Which, this sounds a lot more friendly than she originally let on. It seems like they are a lot closer than she originally let on, which would explain why he would talk about Mike. But I still just think it's a bit weird. I don't know, like, especially the perfectly planted mention on the Facebook post about the battery. Like, be so serious right now. Anyway, Mike says that Joey still hasn't read his messages either, and I think that that's super weird. So they go ahead, catch a flight to Connecticut, and when they land, Mike sees that Joey has opened the messages but didn't respond. So they try to reach out to Desiree again, and she says she doesn't know what's going on with him, but to meet her at this address. And then she gives the address, which she is seeming a little bit too involved at this point for me, because I don't know why she would bring it upon herself to send an address if she wasn't super involved in this situation. But they agree and ask if Joey will be there, and she says, just come, it's all too complicated right now. Doesn't have to be. Even Mike is like, this is ridiculous, it shouldn't be this complicated. So they head to the address that she gave them, and Mike is like looking around, and he notices that they are passing by a lake. Basically, like, that's cool, he might live by a lake, but Neve completely kills his dreams and tells him it seems like this is Desiree's house unless Desiree and Joey are related. So they pull up and they get ready, get out and everything, and they're ready to find out. And Jane says she hears somebody walking inside, so Neve goes up the like porch stairs, and he peeks through the door.
The lights are not on. I don't know if there's anyone in here.
Bro, why are you filming into this house right now? What if they were getting dressed or something, or doing something completely different, and you're just in here with the camera all up in their window? Like, have some respect. This isn't your house. Anyway, after his invasion of privacy, he does this cute little knock. He still continues to look through the window. Mike compliments the house, and he says that he could settle there, but like, bro, what if this isn't even Joey's house? Have you thought about that? Like, it's probably not his house. So they go back to the car thinking that this person is not going to answer the door, to basically decide next steps and figure out where to go next. And when they make it to the car, the garage door starts to open. So they show the guy and he says hi. And Mike in response is like, you, what the fuck?
Hi.
Ew, what the
Without context, that's literally so awful. Because, like, why is that your first reaction to anybody? So the catfish is a guy named Mikey, and according to Mike, apparently they used to be best friends. But the reason that they are no longer best friends is because Mikey thinks that Mike slept with his ex-boyfriend. Well, Mikey is like, yeah, even though I literally witnessed it with my 2 eyes in person, which if that is true, yikes on a bike, Mike. That's crazy. Mike says that his ex-boyfriend wanted him and that Mikey is obsessed with him and that he needs to stop. And he's being like so dramatic, and he puts his hand up in front of his eyes to like cover his eyes from seeing Mikey, like this. And Mikey is like, put your hands down, it's not that serious. And Mikey's like, no, I don't want to look at you. And then said, this is a reality show, not a horror show. Like, that actually kind of got a chuckle out of me when I first watched it, I'm not gonna lie, but wow. Mikey says, I can't stand you, and then Mike says, I can't stand looking at you, and then Mikey's like, then don't, you know, like, there's a bunch of other places that you can look, basically. And anyway, Neve finally steps in and is trying to get them to stop and figure everything out, and he clarifies that Mikey got cheated on, and that Mike basically assisted the boyfriend in cheating on him. And Mike is like, no, his boyfriend wanted to get with me, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna expand on that later, actually. I'm not gonna say it right now, okay? I'm gonna expand on it later. And anyway, Mike says that he didn't have any part of it, and that the ex-boyfriend groped him, and that's all it was. So Neve was like, how long ago was this? And Mike says winter, and that Joey started in March. So basically Mikey did admit that he tried to do this to get back at Mike for whatever happened with the ex-boyfriend, and that the pictures are just of some random guy from Instagram. And Mike says that it's just so sad that he spent 5 months talking to him and that it got him nowhere, but that he's living his best life in California while Mikey is still there in Connecticut. And Mikey is like, are you really living your best life, living off sugar daddies? Jane calls out Mikey though, and is like, it's not fair of you to judge him though, because you took 5 months away from, you know, his life and basically upended it. And Mikey's like, well, he took my relationship and ended it. Real? But I still think that was a waste of everybody's time to do that. Mike is like, even if I did get with your boyfriend, it wouldn't matter because I would have done it much better than you anyway. Okay, yikes. And he just basically is going on and saying he'll be better than him in basically everything in life. And he just keeps throwing out these insults to him.
Even if I did get with your boyfriend, it wouldn't matter because I would have done it much better than you anyway. I'm going to beat you at everything you ever do for your entire life. You will always be uglier, older, disgusting.
And Mikey in response is like, you're covered in Cheeto dust. Like, they just keep going back and forth, throwing insults at each other, and I'm so sorry, and I tried to hold back saying it. This is what I wanted to expand upon. It is giving staged at this point. I'm gonna guess that Mikey and Mike decided to stage this because throughout all of this, like this whole reveal, Mike is smiling a little bit too much for my liking. And like, sometimes people smile in like under pressure. I am an anxious smiler. I'm an anxious laugher. Something will be completely serious and I will laugh. Maybe so I don't cry sometimes, but also because I don't know, I just feel anxious. I don't want people to think I'm being too serious and mean, so I'm like constantly smiling and laughing. I understand that. That isn't what this seems like because I've seen other people who do that. That's not what it seems like Mike is doing here. He's smiling a little bit too much, and the way that they are saying all of this stuff, it just seems so fake and like not scripted necessarily, but it just doesn't seem legitimate. And also when he was being a bit too exaggeratory, when he was like saying everything actually, but also trying to defend himself about the cheating, like I don't know, it's just giving really fake in my opinion. Anyway, Neve pulls Mikey to the side and starts talking to him, and he says that he owns up to what he did, but they both did mess up stuff, so... also he does say that Desiree is involved because she's just a good friend of his and she covered for him basically, so she doesn't really have any real involvement in this other than being a cover-up. Then Jane is talking to Mike and she's like, it would be nice if you guys would just talk without throwing insults, and Mike seeming a bit too calm in the situation. Like a lot of other people who have been catfished would have different reactions, and that's the other reason that I thought that this was a little bit fake. It just, his reaction is way too calm in this moment. Then it goes back to Neve talking to Mikey, and he's like, did you like talking to Mike again? He says, yeah, he'd have moments where it was fun, but that he's tired of Mike going through life and taking advantage of everyone, and that he needs a wake-up call. And Neve is like, yeah, I see the whole carefree and self-obsession, you know, front that he's putting on basically, but that Mikey has been the one real thing for Mike to be open with. So they decide to take a break, and they end up going to this little restaurant so that they can regroup, you know, and everything. And Mikey is just explaining how he got away with everything, how for the voice, he literally would just put his phone a little bit far away and then play the TV, and then it kind of masked his voice a little bit, which I don't know, I feel like that wouldn't do enough, but maybe it would. It just depends on if they were just talking on a regular phone call or like something else that has clearer audio. But for some reason in this, Mike tells Mikey that he should just get over him sleeping with his boyfriend as a friend, of course, because that makes it so much better.
I think as a friend, you should just get over it. As a friend.
And Mikey even says like he's open to being friends with Mike again, but not this cartoon character version of himself. That this is not the real Mike, and that he's usually a pretty good person, but that he's showing a facade, basically, yeah. And they're trying to talk to Mike about this, but he won't budge on the fact that this is a very obvious character that he's putting on. But anyway, Neve is clearly over all of this at this point, and he's like, we should go. So they do, and they're in the car, and Mike says that he's sad that he invested all that time, but he's gonna move on, which obviously, yeah. So they have a 3-month follow-up in this episode, and basically Mike answers while drinking blue Powerade out of a wine glass. Okay, fancy moment, I guess. So they ask if he's seeing anyone or dating anyone, and he says no, that he's still trying to be a sugar baby, and that he basically got the whole poor man thing out of his system. I really hope that all of this was just the character version of him as well, because if not, don't we have enough entitled people running around? Please. Please don't be this way in real life, guys. Like, actually, it's not cute. It's not funny. Anyway, so he mentions that he ended up going to Connecticut again and that he met up with Mikey. They made up, basically. They're civil now. And yeah, so that's basically the end of the episode. Like, yeah, they talked to Mikey, but it wasn't really anything important, I guess. Like, just, you know, talking about how they did, in fact, make up and how they are on decent enough talking terms. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I don't know if this episode was real, to be really honest with you. It is giving super fakeness, in my opinion, but it was super messy if it was real, and it is still crazy even if it's not real, but it is still giving fake to me. But what do you guys think? Like, do you think this is a real episode? Do you think it's fake? And also, what do you think of Mike? I can't even blame Mikey. Like, obviously what he did was wrong. Catfishing is wrong no matter what your reason is. But, like, how do you feel about it, you know? I don't know. Anyway, that is all I really have to say for today. I'm so sorry about my absence. Once again, as if anybody noticed, literally so few people. Nobody knows of my existence. So I don't know why I think that you guys will notice if I'm gone. But if you did notice that I was gone, I'm back for now. I should have at least another video coming out. So hopefully you will stick around and watch that video. If not, no worries. I don't blame you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos from me, make sure that you subscribe. I will try to post more. I promise. I promise. There's just been a lot going on with my move. But yeah, so if you want to see more from me, subscribe. If you like the video, then leave a like. And I will see you guys in my next video, whenever that may be. Bye!